Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann, and I show men and women how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And I'm really delighted, and I hope I'm going to get this right, because I'm joined by Hau Lai.
Yay!
Yay! Fantastic. I've been practicing.
Great.
So for those of you that don't yet know Yi, she is a business manager, a project manager, and also a launch manager. But before we get into that, Yi, I'd really love you to take us back to your childhood and tell us about where you were born and the kind of family that you were born into.
Okay. I was born in Malaysia, and we're sort of like Chinese by race, but my parents were born in Malaysia too. And my family is, well, what you call could be a typical sort of Asian family, where you're expected to work hard and strive for a better future than your own parents, and be better than your previous self. As in, like, you have to be better when you're 10 years old, you should be better than when you're 5 years old. And, the sort of, as well as we also have the ideology that you have to work hard and strive to be better each step of the way. And growing up, my parents were very, very busy. And I'm the eldest daughter in the family, so I was more or less expected to be, be independent. Starting from, like, well, some of the things that we used to do could be maybe child neglect in our current society. Like when I was 6 years old, I walked to the village bus stop by myself at around 6:30 in the morning, and I took public bus on my own and go to another village where we can find the only kindergarten in the area, and in a language that I've never spoken before when I was 6 years old. And I was expected to suck it up and get it going, adapt to whatever situation you got. I mean, it could be harsh for a child, but I think it taught me a lot about being independent, not just being physically independent, but very independent mentally. Because if something happens, you're just going to have to think very quickly and get yourself out of trouble if there is any.
Wow, that's quite amazing, isn't it? To be able to do that, to have to do that
Yeah.
But also what you were saying about the pressure, really, that constant pressure in a way to be better than you were, before. And I guess as we grow up, that is the hope that we are, better today, better tomorrow than we were today. But actually, it's still a lot of pressure on you, isn't it, to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, when I was experiencing the pressure, it was not fun. Like, I hated it. I want to move out. I want to get out of the situation. But as I grew up and looking back, I find that the pressure is actually a good thing, if you actually learn how to handle it. I mean, it's either you learning how to handle it or being bitten by it. And it's like here that the saying that you just get thrown into the deep end, you either swim or you sink, and there's a choice you have to make. And making that choice is a conscious decision that is coming from you and you alone. And I made the choice that I have to swim, and that sort of made all the difference in my life. I mean, taking the plunge or taking the leap of faith. These are all the decisions that has to come from, like, yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say that you learned about the world when you were a child?
I find that in the world is very cruel. There's so much competition, but I was lucky in the sense that my father and mother loves to read a lot, and we have a lot of books littering around. And we were never told that a certain book is, too deep for you, or the language is too hard for you. It's just lying around, and if you take the initiative to grab it and read, and so be it. So from all the readings, I found a sort of my escape when I was younger. And also because they read a lot of like more literature type books, it sort of informed the decisions I made later in life. Actually helped me a lot in choosing as you grow older and there are more choices and you get more confused. It sort of acted like a bit of a compass in choosing my own path.
Yeah, brilliant. Which is so important, isn't it? So even though I know that it sounds like you've always strived to get better and to be successful, what things did you struggle with? What have you struggled with in your life?
I did struggle with like my body image, because at one time I had a hormonal problem that makes me like fat. And I didn't consider myself bullied, but I'm definitely made fun of back in school. But it also takes a lot of like mental sort of discipline to not pay attention to things that it's not ever going to change my life. And that sort of making fun of being bullied, I think, in our language today, actually helped me to sort of think that if I can't be beautiful, I might have to make myself better in other areas. And the only thing that I figured out back then was I have to be I have to be smarter, or I have to be more intelligent. And I set about educating myself in a way, by reading books, watching like lectures. Back then there weren't any YouTube, but however, a little bit of things that you can find on the internet, I do look at it. And I read a lot of self-help books to actually get myself out of my own a bit of a depressive sort of way. And when I was growing up, people will be telling you you're never going to be smart enough, and and that was really funny. I never thought I was smart, or not in the academic sense. I'm not smart, but when I went overseas, when I moved to Australia to do my studies, I found that I am so independent that I actually have no problems being away from my own family.
Wow, amazing. And I can slightly detect that Australian accent in you. Yay. So did you ever kind of come to terms with the way you felt about your body? Do you feel differently about your body now?
I felt better because after I've seek treatment, um, and I did find out that it wasn't due to my own doing, like I don't binge eat or anything like that. And that sort of helped me that I wasn't doing something wrong. It wasn't completely my fault, which I was told, like, you ate too much or something like that. And also, it hasn't helped. It doesn't necessarily mean that I think I'm more beautiful now, but I just felt lighter because I lost all that weight after the having the appropriate treatment. And it helped me to relate more with people who are experiencing that, and not to be judgmental.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? So tell us about your career path. How did you end up doing what you do now?
My career path is, I really want to get out of being a pharmacist. I love all the knowledge, and it has helped me when I'm in other countries, and then when I was in the tight spot when I couldn't find any medical help or reliable help. My knowledge has helped me a lot. But I just was burnt out because I was working long hours. I could be working 12 hours a day, and couldn't eat, have no time to eat, have no time to go to the toilet, and just standing 12 hours a day. And so I wanted to move to Japan because my first impression of it was so good that I ended up quitting my job, took the leap of faith, and went to Japan for studying Japanese because I wanted to apply for an exchange job, but it requires me to have a high level of Japanese language skills. And I did that and I got the job. And while I was working in Japan as a culture ambassador, I did a lot of event planning and doing a lot of events to promote cultures with 3 of my other colleagues. And when I moved to France, I couldn't get a job because I'm not a native French. And because I haven't done any degrees in France, like it was so funny while I was at the immigration office and I got asked like, so what's your educational level? They always think in terms of high school plus how many years after. And I said, I am high school plus 5 years after because I've done like 4 years of pharmacy school and 1 year of a language school in France. And the lady just proceeded to put high school plus 1 because that was the only thing she recognized. And my pharmacy degree, like, you know, it's almost like I am a high school graduate, basically. And so I was up against a lot of trouble trying to find positions where they say they want English speakers, but they might not actually give you a priority consideration. And I got very frustrated. So, and then I wanted to start my own business and I want to do something about my life. And the chance would have it that I was watching this webinar about project management and I discovered it was what I was doing all along. I was like, why don't I just do that? And I came across someone who did launches and I thought that was interesting. And that was how I got to where I am.
Brilliant, brilliant. You've got a brilliant testimonial, actually, and I just want to read it. It was a joy to have Yi on my team during a growth period in my business. What can't she do? Probably nothing. From website building, learning Kajabi, sales page creation, event setup, and much more. She faced into new learning with ease and sought to find a solution for every challenge. Add to that, having her moral support was amazing. So clearly you got it covered, you know what to do. So tell us about what you specifically love about what you do and the kinds of clients that you work with. Yi.
I specifically like what I do because it is fitting a lot into what we call design thinking, which helps you ideate and then get a prototype running and you test out your assumptions. Because we really want to create something that a customer wants, and then which will help us to earn what we wanted to earn and get our business growing. But what we don't want is to have something that is we think is a good idea, but no one does. And that is by creating these channels for people to give us feedback every step of the way, we can almost be guaranteed that what we created is going to be what the market wants. And I find that it's very in line with scientific thinking and the way we've been trained as a pharmacist. So I do enjoy the whole design thinking process and put in testing procedures so we can know what we're doing is actually on the right path.
In a nutshell, what do people want?
I think people do want to have success, and they want to have the fear of failure being taken away. But we can never take away the fear of failure, but we can change our perspective of despite the fear of failure, we choose to be comfortable in an uncomfortable situation because we have all the right process testing in place. And in a way, in the design thinking world, there is no such thing as failure. It was just finding out what other ways to not do something so that we can get to the right way of doing things.
That's so powerful. I love that. You mentioned languages. You speak 5, which is amazing: Cantonese, Chinese, English, French, and Japanese. What would you say does experiencing different cultures add to your life, Yi?
I think in a lot of ways it has enriched my life in a form that comes in a sort of perspective. A lot of things we think that we are unable to do or we are not good at or something, it's a lot to do with perspective rather than the ability. And once I have the different perspective, then I could actually explore. Like I'm not waiting for people to give me permission, which we were, used to. Like someone has to give you permission to explore something. But in the end, when I see other people who are different from my own culture doing it, and they never question or never wait for the approval, and that sort of frees me to go and, explore myself.
I'm so glad you've said that. I think, yes, perspective is everything, but also not worrying about what people think. I mean,
Yeah,
yes,
it took a bit of work.
Yeah, but hugely liberating when we do that. So you mentioned Japan. I know that you worked as a coordinator for international relations in Japan. So what was that like?
It was very refreshing because switching from being a pharmacist to a cultural ambassador, and it was very funny that you see how the clashes or the difference in perspective, things that I took for granted, and when I presented it to like the Japanese public, they found it so interesting and so refreshing that made me look at what I have, like treasure what I have more, compared to being taken for granted, because it was so normal to me.
What do you do when you're not working?
What do we do when we're not? I would travel to Japan and try their food because I love to eat. And also interact with normal Japanese people, just live the life. Like in Japan, is a lot about trains and the rush hour, which sometimes, like in Australia or in France, unless you live in Paris, but it is not necessarily what it will be like in an everyday life. It will be more driving. So like the fast pace and the trains that will take you anywhere whenever you choose. It's like that sort of experience. Although I know it's very daily life, but it's just something that I don't always get to experience.
What are you most proud of?
About the job?
About anything that you've done in your life?
I'm most proud of taking the plunge or taking a leap of faith. And I know that it is not something easy, like I could just come here and say you have to take that leap of faith, but it took me 2 to 3 years of mulling over like what to do before I actually took that leap of faith to move to Japan the first time. Because previously I just don't have, like, your parents have kind of map out that your future path up to university for you. Then you're left with like, what do I do next? and it took me 2 to 3 years, really burnt out, to decide enough is enough. I'm going to take a chance. Because in the end, I realized that it's not the end of the world if I'm still breathing, and I can always start over. And the funny thing is, when I took that plunge, many people told me, you're going to regret it. I don't see why you're doing it. You're throwing away a good career. But I never looked back. I don't mean to say just take a leap whenever you feel like it. You probably have to have a little plan going slightly forward. But unless you take the leap, I find that I'm lacking in data. So taking the leap helps me create the data that I need.
Brilliant. And it is taking that leap and trusting that the net will appear for us, isn't it?
Yes.
Even though you can't see it and you're not really sure whether it will, it's like, no, just trust something there.
As long as you're not dead, anything is possible.
As long as you're breathing, like you say.
Yes.
One final question, Yi. When you're no longer on this planet, how would you like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered as a person who took the plunge, who did that skydiving.
Wow. Yeah, what a brilliant thing. I absolutely love that. So it's been a real joy talking to you. Obviously, I'm going to put all your links below this video. So please, everyone, just check Lee out. Yi out, not Lee. And all there is for me to say is Yi Hau Lai. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was a joy.